Module 8, Scenario Development and Tabletop Exercise. At the end of this course, learners should be able to demonstrate the culmination of all learning modules in scenario development, showing the possible impact of hazards in an area. Demonstrate the use of tabletop exercise in the development of a contingency plan, a drill plan, and simulation exercises.
This is just a simple presentation that will show the process, how we are going to come up with a scenario in the community in a kind of calamity to happen. And we will be giving you immediately after the scenario development the synoptic of a typhoon, so that we will try how we are going to prepare in different stages of warning information coming from Pag-asa, so that we are well organized once the typhoon is coming from outside of PAR, from approaching PAR, and then from the time that we are placed under signal number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We must have a specific plan in every warning level declared by Pag-asa in a particular place. So this is the scenario, and this is the plan that needs to be done, so that if we do this in the community with the barangay officials to lead, then they will be guided in terms of actions done by warning level. So this is the process that we are going to do should there be typhoon coming and then affecting the area. And any contingency plan should always be based from a scenario developed by the community. That's why we called it as a scenario-based contingency plan. So in making a scenario, instead of making a question and answer and narrative presentation, I tried to shorten, simplify it by way of presenting a matrix again. So we need to identify a typhoon. In a typhoon, for every kind of typhoon, we have to develop a scenario. Because if a typhoon is just a kind of typhoon which will bring us strength of maybe 200 kilometers per hour, 100 kilometers per hour, or 300 kilometers per hour, we will make a different kind of scenario to its kind of typhoon characteristics or behavior. Now, what we are trying to do actually in Albay is we don't look at the social media to get information about any impending threat, because what we do, say, once there is a situation of a developing typhoon in about 200 to 3,000, 2,000 to 3,000 kilometers away, probably east of the Philippines, we are not threatened, we're not scared, or we are not, what do you call this? We are just calm, and we are just simply monitoring if the behavior of the typhoon is going to develop to a super typhoon or not. But if the typhoon is thought to be just a kind of a low pressure that somehow to be developed later into tropical depression or tropical storm, then we still have to wait for it to come closer to the Philippines. And upon almost entering the Philippine area of responsibility, that is the time that we are going to check whether the typhoon is strong or a small one. If it is a strong one, then that's the time that we are going to await for the first issuance of severe weather bulletin. That once a severe weather bulletin is released by Pag-asa, that means that the information is in connection with a typhoon or tropical cyclone. If not severe weather bulletin, it could be a low pressure, it could be a intertropical convergence zone, it could be something else, but not a tropical cyclone. So it should be severe weather bulletin. Now, once the typhoon enters PAR, and we have now the first information coming from Pag-asa, while we are not yet placed under signal number 1, what we do is we try to establish a scenario. In establishing a scenario, of course, we need to check whether the tracking of the typhoon is going to hit us directly. If we are going to be hit directly by the typhoon, then we will prepare scenario 1. And when we prepare scenario 1, we are talking about destructive wind, storm surge, flash flood and debris flow, sheet flooding, landslide, and mud flow. This is scenario 1. The scenario 2 is if we are not going to be hit by the typhoon directly by its eye, but we fall still under an area with strong wind. Most probably, if 300 kilometers per hour, we fall within 150 to 180 and even up to 200 kilometers away from its eye, then still we will prepare for a scenario 1. This is it, scenario 1. But if we are going to be far from the eye, maybe about 250, 275, 300 kilometers away from the eye, where we are out of strong wind circulation, but we fall still within the rain band. We will call that as scenario 3, where our preparation is limited to those associated hazards caused by rainfall. Hindi na kami magpe-prepare sa wind. No more storm surge. Maybe we will still have to monitor because we still anticipate possibly 1 to 2 meter wave, or most probably less than 2 meters of wave to hit the coast, especially in the eastern seaboard. But we need to prepare for flood, landslide, mud flow, flash flood, and debris flow, but not on storm surge and wind. Tanggal na siya. Now, another situation, pag nag-tracking kami na lumalabas, malayo kami sa mata, at we will fall outside of each rain band, meaning outside of 300-kilometer radius, nasa labas ng bagyo. Kaya lang, the typhoon is passing through the north, while the wind is coming from the southwest. We will call that as scenario 4, enhanced southwest monsoon. Pag sinabi natin enhanced southwest monsoon, ibig sabihin yan, exactly at exact location of north-northeast from the province of Albay, north-northeast location ng Aina, definitely, while the typhoon is in circulation is counterclockwise, hihigupin niya ang habagat. That's why we call it enhanced southwest monsoon, and the impact is rainfall that may bring us the same flood, flash flood, and debris flowing apat. Kaya lang, i-consider namin this time yung wind of up to 80 to 90 kilometers per hour dahil yung wind niya ay hihilahin niya yung habagat. Especially if it happens in the month of July and August, and these are the months that is considered peak of southwest monsoon. Definitely, malakas. Yun ang nangyari sa Ondoy in the month of July. Dumaan yung Ondoy, hindi naman directly hit ang Metro Manila, kaya lang habagat, hinila niyo yung habagat, yun, phenomenon yung nangyari sa rainfall, super at signal number 2. Scenario 4 po yun. Sasabihin nila, bakit mali ang Pag-asa? Bakit doon sa Isabela dumaan yung bagyo? Pero bakit ang lakas-lakas ng hangin at may mga landslide pa kami? Mali ang Pag-asa. Pag-asa is correct. Hindi lang tayo nag-scenario planning. Okay. In the month of November, where the wind is northeasterly, December, January, may dumaang bagyo and then passing through Cebu, and then directly affecting Negros, and then Panay Island, and then labas siya ng Northern Palawan. Pagdating yan sa southern location ng Southern Luzon, exactly south location na ang epicenter ng Southern Luzon, hihilahin niya ang amihan, and we call that scenario 5, where we call that enhanced northeast monsoon. Pag hila ng amihan, meron tayong hangin up to 80 to 90 kilometers per hour. Pwedeng matumba yung mga saging and small branches will be broken. And then, meron tayong ulan similar to typhoon. Scenario 5. Ano yung scenario 6? Yung scenario 6, ito, ganun din ang preparation natin dito. Sa scenario 3, 4, 5, 6, the same. Ano yung scenario 6? Typhoon Osman. Yung Typhoon Osman was passing through Giwan, Eastern Samar, while Albay was located about 100 10 to 120 kilometers away from it. And Bicol region was placed under tropical depression warning signal number 1. And then all of a sudden, at 5 o'clock in the morning, that was December 10, December 28 or 27 yun. Then, Pag-asa had downgraded the signal status from 1 to 0, thereby placing or declaring downgrading of tropical depression to low pressure area. So wala nang signal. But under the 24-hour public weather forecast, it appeared that there was a situation of active of cold front and northeast monsoon affecting Camarines Norte, Albay, and Camarines Sur. So I issued advisory to evacuate because we were anticipating a torrential rain that may cause flood and landslide in the 3rd district of Albay, because apparently if we are just preparing to cold front, then it will just affect, in most cases, eastern section of the Philippines. So, nag-prepare lang kami ng eastern section. Kaya lang, ito ngayon ang threat. Will population advised to evacuate? Will proceed to evacuate? Will in fact, according to Pag-asa, based on severe weather bulletin, downgraded na yung tropical depression. Wala na nga signal. So, hindi mag-i-evacuate. Sabi ng Pag-asa, binaba na yung signal. Bakit kami mag-i-evacuate? Because they could not understand the science of disaster. So, ayaw makinig. And then, reiterated at 10 o'clock. The first advisory was 8 o'clock. Reiterated at 10 o'clock. Advisory to evacuate people from those areas threatened by landslide. Ayaw pa rin. So sabi ko, we are now at 160 millimeters. Definitely, pag umabot tayo ng 180 millimeters antecedent rainfall, landslide dyan sa Tiwi, dyan sa Sangay area ng Albay and Camarines Sur. Yun nga ang nangyari. 181 to 185, landslide. That was the only time na nagpa-evacuate sila dahil ayaw makinig ng tao. So, this was not discussed. Nung sinabi ng Pag-asa, hindi, Typhoon Usman yun. Paano Typhoon Usman? Ang layo-layo ng Usman. Nung tinanong ko yung weather data sa Pag-asa, pumunta ko ng Pag-asa, nakita ko, pumuputi yung satellite information niya doon sa screen. Meaning, there was a continuing cloud build-up while it was releasing so much rainfall. So yun ang nakita ko. Kaya tuloy-tuloy. Pinadeclare ko na sa Pag-asa, dapat red warning na ang Pag-asa para makinig na yung tao. Ayun, nag-red sila. Wala pa tayo sa nag-orange, yellow pa lang. Hindi, tuloy ka na ng red. Yun ang pinapakis ng instrument. Bakit hindi mo itaas sa red? Yun, tinaas sa red. Yun ang situation sa scenario 6. That's why we need to explain also this one to the community about the scenario development. Now, we have now the scenario 1. Typhoon Glenda, Typhoon Yolanda. The typhoon is scenario 1 with 250 to 300 kilometers per hour. Ngayon, i-define na natin dito sa matrix. Kailangan ilagay natin yan sa matrix. Ano ba yung associated hazards na papasok sa atin? Okay. Balayan, Batangas. Storm surge, wind, and flood. Okay. Imos, Cavite. Flood and destructive wind lang. So, i-check mo yon. Yung threatened population will be for destructive wind, how many? For storm surge in Balayan, Batangas, how many? Cavite, Imos, wala. Flash flood and debris flow, may ilog ba? Kung yes, then how many population will be threatened? Sheet flooding, meron ba? Then how many populations will be threatened? Landslide, meron ba? Wala. So tanggal yan. Except kung nasa area tayo with the slope na posible may landslide, lalagyan natin yan ng population data. Now, with that identification of or quantifying population and put into data under this third column, then what impact do we expect to be felt and experienced by those populations mentioned in this table, in this column? Ano ba yung expected impact sa population? Should they fail to evacuate, for refusal to evacuate, what will happen to them? This is now the scenario. Ilan ba ang mamamatay? Ilan ba ang aakyat sa bubong? Ilan ba ang mai-injure? Ilan ba ang mawawala? Yun na ngayon ang impact sa population. Okay. So kung nakita natin yan, ang impact, then ilagay lang natin yan, in-note. Storm surge. Is there a possibility that there would be houses to be carried away by the wave? How many are they? Most probably, based from our risk map, 80 households because they are right located within 2-meter elevation above sea level. And they are those made up of light materials, bamboo, wooden, at coco lumber pa. And nipa shingle ang roofing. So, nakalagay lang dyan sa expected impact to population. Flash flood and debris flow, how many are they? So this would be the impact. Sheet flooding, how many are they? But yung sheet flooding, okay lang because mababaw lang dyan. Pero dito sa Purok 1, mukhang aabot ng 1 meter yan. So ilalagay natin yan dyan. And then, how about properties and investments? Will there be properties and investments to be affected? Yes or no? If yes, then fill it up in under 5th column. Expected impacts to properties and investments. Fill it up so that you will be able to bring the matter for discussion during emergency meeting that this is the scenario 1, and these are the population affected, properties and investments to be affected, and this could happen to them should there will be no actions done by the committee. So this is now the scenario that we are going to talk about. Then after this, we need to review back in order to identify our capacity to match them up with the needs according to expected impact out of this scenario developed. So dito tayo mag-uumpisa, mag-prepare ng plano. Identified kaagad. Ito na yung basis natin in coming up with transportation, security, relief, health and sanitation, and so on. Ito, scenario development. Even on drills and exercises, you need to develop this kind of matrix so that you are going to determine which will be our priority in terms of drills and exercises. Dito ba tayo sa storm surge? Dito ba tayo sa flash flood and debris flow? Dito ba tayo sa destructive wind? Alin ang subject natin for simulation exercises? That's why we call it scenario-based drill plan for simulation exercise. Lagi tayong may ganito, may basis. Hindi okay na. Basta ang gagawin natin, pag nag-bell, labas tayo sa Kapitolyo at proceed tayo doon sa park, doon tayo maghintay ng another bell para bumalik. Yun na yung drill natin. At paglalagay tayo ng konting sunog sa second floor para we will ask the Bureau of Fire Protection na to act on that fire incident. And then meron tayong kunyari, may dalawa tayong injured. So we will ask the Red Cross. No. Dapat we have this kind of scenario and then we will be the one to do it in a plan. Okay. So, hindi po ito ginagawa sa mga communities. This is not being done. Just a simple matrix is not done. And even the one that I shared to you, I discussed a while ago about scenario 1 to 6. This is not yet done. That's why in our province, when I am asked for an interview over the radio or television, whether local or national, unang sinasabi ko, with this kind of typhoon, we are preparing to a scenario 1, or we are preparing for a scenario 3. And therefore, our preparation in a scenario 3 is just limited to flood, landslide, flash flood, mud flow, and debris flow. Similar to what happened during Typhoon Yolanda. At first, we started to prepare scenario 1, but at 9 o'clock in the morning, upon temperature analysis, that we detected that the temperature in Albay and nearby provinces were lower than the required capacity in order to establish a strong wind, and therefore, we shifted from scenario 1 to scenario 3. and therefore reducing the target response operations from scenario 1 to 3. So bumaba na. We reduced our target evacuation from 500,000 plus to 32,000, limited to 32,000 individuals. So ganun yon. It should be based from a scenario. So bago ako magpatuloy doon sa tabletop exercise, do you have further question? Do you have any clarification first? Para I just want to see to it that we understood what is going to be if we are trying to develop a scenario before coming up with a plan for an emergency response requirement. I remember on November 1987, the Philippines was hit by Typhoon Sisang with a strength of 250 kph. There were large casualties due to drowning in the coastal community within the province of Sorsogon or town of Sorsogon proper at that time. Was this caused by storm surge and due to the time it hit the community? Yes, this was caused by storm surge, especially in Magallanes, in Bacon, in Prito Diaz, in Matnog, Sorsogon. Sorsogon is not part of my jurisdiction, but I exactly remember what happened. And even in Sorsogon Bay, there were casualties due to drowning. And because of the increasing flood level, there were also drowning incidents because of flooding in Sorsogon. That is it. And Sorsogon then during Typhoon Sisang was a scenario 1 incident or event. Ganito lang kasimple ang scenario development. Very simple, pero kung alam nito ng local government units, madaling gawin. So hindi magkakamali magplano. At saka madaling explain if ever we are trying to issue advisories but there are questions asked to our advisories, then we can easily explain why we do that advisory released officially. Now, for the tabletop exercise, I tried to develop a synopsis, and this is the synoptic. Instead of putting it in narrative presentation, numbered na lang ang ginawa ko. Now, for the tabletop exercise, number 1, we are going to organize groups composed of members from one group for warning, another group on communication and information, another group for evacuation, another group for transportation, another group for security, and another group for relief, another group for water, sanitation, and hygiene. We need to create those groups, organize them, and then we will give them instructions that they will be grouped together, and then in one table, we will put label kung saan sila nagre-represent, and then we will invite the barangay captain, being the chair of the Barangay Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Committee, to be the in charge of that tabletop exercise, and we are trying to put into practice our plan how we are going to handle a situation of typhoon from the start of its approaching stage up to the time that the area is placed under signal number 5 and downgraded to signal number 1 or 0. So yun ang gagawin natin. We will group them by sector. And then, being the chairman of the committee, the chair will be the one to facilitate, make decisions, and then being the ground commander, he will be the one in full responsibility, in accountability to whatever are being discussed or decided on. Barangay captain pa rin. Siya ang magfa-facilitate. At first, siyempre, bago ako mag-umpisa nitong procedures, let me first explain how it is being conducted. The very purpose of this tabletop exercise and drills is for them to try to develop muscles memory para alam nila kung anong gagawin. Halimbawa, biglang dumaan yung information sa atin through Facebook. Naku, nakakatakot. May super typhoon na naman palang dadaan sa Pilipinas. Mukhang marami na naman sa atin na mamamatay. Kailangan nating maghanda. Yun, naninervyos na naman sila. Then, if you coordinate with the barangay officials, ano bang gagawin natin? Basta, ayun, tawagan mo nga si ganito. Magkano bang pera natin dyan? Maghanda ka na ng relief. Tawagan mo si Tanod. Ihanda yung mga sasakyan kasi para pag may mag-evacuate, tulungan natin. At yung lobid, yung rubber boat, ihanda na yung team para mag-rescue. Yun ang gagawin na plano. Yun din ang kanilang gagawin for their rehearsal or simulation exercise. Yun din ang gagawin. First aid and rescue pa rin ang gagawin nila. So, kailangan i-organize natin. And then, we will try to make a severe weather bulletin by Pag-asa. We will start making analysis and interpretation of that data. And then after that, the warning committee will release the data, will release the interpreted data based on the recommendations that will be given to the barangay captain for decision making. Yun ang unang gagawin. And then second, magpapatawag si kapitan ng meeting. Says, declared ng signal number 2. Magpapatawag siya ng meeting or signal number 1. Now, the first thing that we must do, once the emergency meeting is called upon by the barangay chair, then the agenda must be, number 1, hazard assessment. So that we will be able to evaluate and assess what are those hazards that's going to affect our locality. This is now the preparation. Now, second, if you are going to assess the hazard, you are going to look back at the risk map and then your scenario develop things. Yung scenario, ano bang scenario? So, pag nag-scenario na kayo, then assess the hazards, and then after assessing the hazards, you are now given the data by the warning committee and the evacuation committee that you are going to have evacuated this much number of population at risk. Then you have to do next in the discussion of capacity evaluation as the next agenda. Capacity evaluation. So pag nag-capacity evaluation ka na, i-identify mo na yung evacuation capacity, and then your transportation capacity, health, water, and sanitation capacity, and security capacity, and so on. Until such time that you are complete with your evaluation, then matching it with the requirements, then you will say, we are now ready because based on your scenario, this will not happen because we are going to evacuate them to here. This one will be evacuated here. And this one, in order to prevent them from flooding, we will set aside and we will not allow any rescue operation, but instead, we will inform the community that we are going to evacuate from 8 o'clock in the morning up to 10 o'clock in the afternoon, in the morning, because based on our computation, the typhoon is expected to start its wind strength to be felt by the community at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So yun, lalagay ka na dyan part ng scenario mo. So with that discussion, so what is now our decision? Prepare the advisory and circulate the advisory as soon as possible. Do it within 30 minutes. Yan ang mga gagawin natin. Ano ang gagawin ng communication? Ako pa nakita ko na yun, binigay sa akin ni Kap, mag-ipapaikot ako para mai-distribute ko na yun sa mga purok leaders. Para agad-agad, within 15 minutes, compliant na kami. Mission accomplished. Ikaw, sa security, anong gagawin mo? Kap, i-divide ko na yung team. Meron na akong grupo. Sila ganito, composed of 15 individuals, dito sila. Ito, composed of 17 individuals or members, dito sila. Ito naman, composed of 21 members, dito sila sa evacuation centers. Equitably distributed yung grouping ng tanod. O ikaw, anong gagawin mo doon sa water, sanitation, and health? Ako, yung public health ko, dito na, i-maintain yung, kasi may hindi pa tayo na-immunize, may vaccination pa tayo, kailangan ituloy. Okay, tuloy. Ikaw, emergency health. tutulong na sa evacuation para once there are already evacuating population, then doon sa table, dadaan muna sila sa amin for proper screening kung talagang safe sila to evacuate. Otherwise, i-refer namin sila sa clinic or hospital. Yung mga may high blood, i-refer sa clinic. Yung mga may sakit na trangkas or what, dito sila, may isolated room tayo for the sick persons who walang clinic dahil nakakatakot baka may COVID doon, lalong mahawa sila. So we allocated 3 rooms for isolation of those children with chickenpox and for those with fever, dito sila. So naka-organize na. What about the water sanitation? First, since the typhoon is still approaching, we will assign 2 persons to go around, evaluate the existing sources of drinking water. Pag wala, we will ask the water refilling station to provide us with the facility so that kung kailangan nilang iinumin na tubig, meron tayong water dispenser bawat evacuation center para hindi natin kailangan mag-deliver. Because one problem that we might anticipate is for possible unsafe drinking water for potential contamination because of flood. So yung mga ganun, gagawin yan sa planning. Now, after which, pag nagawa nyo na yon, then based from our discussion from day 1 up to day 2 and morning of day 3, what are those things that we picked up from the lectures and ideas that we understood as we relate those lectures to the actual situation in the community? Ano ang mga yon, so that I can make use of those ideas to be part of our tabletop exercise. Doon ako kukuha ng idea para doon sa synoptic na ipipresent sa atin, ma-organize natin kung ano dapat gawin. Okay, now, ready na tayo doon. Tabletop exercise proper na. Okay, we are now starting the tabletop exercise. Okay, first, sasabihin na ng facilitator, as of 11 o'clock, September 8, 2021, the typhoon was located at about 750 kilometers east of Mindanao. And according to Pag-asa, the typhoon is about to enter the Philippine area of responsibility in 2 to 3 hours, depending on the speed that will, if the typhoon is going to maintain its speed at 10 kilometers per hour, it will enter PAR by about 11 o'clock, by about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So sasabihin natin yan. So wala pa. So anong gagawin mo? Based doon, sasabihin mo siya, anong gagawin yan? Ito ngayon ang situation. Anong gagawin niya? So most probably, sasabihin nila, we are just on monitoring and declaring alert status, so that the first thing that we must do is check namin, baka may nag-travel, i-recall, baka nag-issue ng travel order. Hindi na ituloy ang issuance ng travel order. Lahat, standby na, on standby mode. Para at the time na pumasok sa Philippine Area of Responsibility, we are all complete as a local government team. Okay, pumasok kayo sa PAR. Pagpasok sa PAR, first bulletin number 1. As of 5 o'clock, September 9, 2021, based on satellite and surface data, Pag-asa data shows that the typhoon is located at 8.2 degrees north, 129.3 degrees east. Tama ba yung orientation ko? Anyway. So, and it is located at 900 kilometers southeast of Batangas City or 250 kilometers east of Surigao del Norte, southeast of Batangas City, with wind strength of 250 kilometers sustained wind and up to 280 kilometers per hour gustiness. It is moving northwest at 15 kilometers per hour. According to Pag-asa, the diameter of the typhoon is at 600 kilometers, and it is anticipated to bring us about 50 to 70 millimeters of rainfall per hour. Now, we are not yet placed under signal number 1. No signal whatsoever. What are you going to do with this warning status coming from Pagasa? So we will leave the group to do something in a workshop, write them down whatever they think would be actions done while at this level. We are going to give them 5 to 10 minutes time limit. That is it. So for this, what we expected would be, ayun, magulo, maingay. Hindi alam ang gagawin kasi first time na gagawin nila. So what will you do as facilitator? Kung hindi nyo pa alam, you have to facilitate. Pag may tanong, okay, you can ask question so that we can guide you. Or go back to your materials starting from day 1 to the present and up to the present. Ano ba yung mga materials? Baka may makapulot kayo doon sa mga notes nyo. Kailangan nyo bang i-review na yung warning criteria nyo? Kailangan nyo bang balikan kung meron kayong data ng population? Nasaan ba yung, kailangan nyo bang hanapin kung nasaan yung mapa? Baka dinala ni Kapitan. Kailangan bawiin mo na yun at ibalik dito sa Operation Center. Or most probably, you are going to issue an advisory placing the area under preparedness status so that people must always be aware that you are now expecting at any day, any time, a strong typhoon. Ano ba ang gagawin natin at this status? Okay, tapos na yung 10 minutes. Okay, dyan muna. Kanya-kanyang sulat yan. Yung warning, kanila ding function. Pwede silang mag-refer doon sa duties and responsibilities under pre, during, and post. Ano ba yung nakalagay nila doon sa workshop ng duties and responsibilities na pwedeng ipasok dito sa status na ito at this stage? Okay, as of 11 a.m. September 10, 2021, according to Pagasa, based on satellite and surface data, that the typhoon is located 780 kilometers southeast of Batangas City, and still maintaining a strength or increasing its strength of 270 kilometers per hour sustained wind and up to 300 kilometers per hour gustiness. Meaning, lumampas na tayo sa 220 kph. This is now under super typhoon category. 220 or up, that is super typhoon category. Meaning, super destructive typhoon. So makikita mo na kaagad. And it is moving northwest at 15 kilometers per hour. The diameter is 600 kilometers with rainfall of 70 to 90 millimeters per hour in areas close to eye wall. Regions 4A and B, including Metro Manila, are now placed under tropical cyclone warning signal number 1. Ano ngayon ang gagawin nyo? I will only give you 15 minutes to do the job. Ano ang gagawin nyo? Warning, communication, transportation, sasabihin ng warning. Okay, let us compute. When is our landfall? So, ako si warning, nag-compute ako. 780 divided by 15, ilan yon? Para makita ko yung landfall. 780 divided by 15. Meaning, 52 hours. Kailan yung 52 hours? Today is Saturday, and this is as of 11 a.m. today, September 10. Kasi, ano lang ito, kaya hindi ito exact date kasi drill lang, tabletop exercise lang. So, 52 hours. Tomorrow, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, kasi minus 1, kasi yung data collection would be 1 hour before, released at 11. So, 10 o'clock tomorrow, 24, Sunday. Monday, at 10 o'clock, that is 48. So, since we have 52 hours, plus 4, 10, 11, 12, 2 o'clock ng Monday, okay, 48. Now, 2 o'clock ng Monday will be the landfall. So, ibig sabihin, yun, ano ang gagawin mo? So mayroon ng data. So pwede na yun ang pagbabasehan para pag-discuss. Ano ngayon ang gagawin ng communication? So sinabi nito, pwede na siyang mag-circulate ng, okay, advisory number 2. Ano ba yung advisory number 2 gagawin mo? Pwede mag-instruct kang, the families to be affected must have to prepare their evacuation kit so that once evacuation order is released, then you are ready to be evacuated. And coordinate with your local focal persons on warning and evacuation so that by the time that you receive the advisory to evacuate, then you can make movements without delay. To the marketing, para kung may kailangan kayong dapat bilhin na ngayon. Huwag nang hintayin lumakas ang ulan. Huwag nang hintayin magkaroon tayo ng baha. Ngayon na. Ano pang gagawin? Kung mayroon kayong kapatid or kamag-anak na umalis, inform nyo na, bumalik na kagad because we are now in preparedness status. Ano pa? Yung transportation, okay, nag-inventaryo na siya at ready na to preposition vehicles. Full tank na ba yung masasakyan nyo? Mga ganon. So yun ang mga pag-uusapan. Ano ang gagawin nyo at this moment? Evacuation, ano ang gagawin? Security, anong gagawin? Relief, anong gagawin? Pwede na siyang mag-start ng computation. Meron na siyang data. Water, sanitation, and health, anong gagawin? Yun. At this stage. Expect na yung gagawin nilang signal number 2, pwedeng supposedly nasa signal number 1 or nasa signal number 3. Doon na lang natin yun aayusin sa plenary. Kung kailangan may ililipat, may babaguhin, doon na lang sa plenary. Pero sigurado ko, ang result niyan magulo. Kasi first time. At least, the process of tabletop exercise is to familiarize the procedures. Kahit hindi perfect, basta't ang pinaka-objective muna natin dito is to familiarize the procedures. What will be the procedures that they are going to apply at the time that they are trying to start receiving warning information from PAG-ASA through the severe weather bulletin. Okay, signal number 1. Biglang dumating ang oras naman, 11 p.m. the same day, September 10. Biglang signal number 2 na, where the typhoon distance is just 500 kilometers away from Batangas, southeast of Batangas, and the same strength, 272, 300 kph. The same movement, hindi siya bumaba, hindi siya tumaas, yung movement niya. The same direction, northwest, meaning direct hit, scenario 1. 600 kilometers in diameter. So 500 kilometers southeast of Batangas. Ano sa tingin nyo? Rainfall of 70 to 90. So ibig sabihin dito, sa signal number 1, na-compute nyo na yung rainfall, kung kailan, na-compute yung estimated distance, na estimated time of strong wind, and estimated time of landfall. So this time, 500 kilometers southeast of Batangas, while the diameter is 600, ilang kilometers na lang siya bago pumasok yung ulan. So with a radius of 300, meaning 200 kilometers na lang, mag-uumpisa na ang ulan. So kung 200 kilometers na lang, and then moving at 15 kilometers per hour, 215 kilometers na lang, 207, 500 kilometers minus 300, so 200 kilometers na lang. Ilang oras bago mag-umpisa ang ulan? Within 13 hours, pwede na pumasok ang ulan, plus or minus 2 hours, 13 hours. Kasi 200 ang space mo na lang from the radius. 200 kilometers na lang from the radius, being at 500 with the radius of 300. So 13 hours na lang. So meaning, ngayon, kunyari, nasa 1 o'clock p.m., because we called for a meeting 1 o'clock after receiving the 11 p.m., 11 p.m. pala ito, 11 p.m., half afternoon, and therefore, 24-hour monitoring na kayo, bilang nag-meeting ng 2 a.m. of September 11, lumalabas sa 13 hours na lang. Uulan na. So 11 o'clock, 11 bukas ng umaga, that is 12. Kung 13 hours, 12 noon bukas, mag-uumpisa na ang ulan. So we are now placed under signal number 2. Mag-uumpisa na bukas ang ulan. Ano ang gagawin natin bago mag-umpisa ang ulan? So keep monitoring, maintain monitoring and declaring issuing instructions to the warning committee that from now on, I need you to submit to me the report on a 3-hourly basis, monitoring report on a 3-hourly basis. Ano ang gagawin ng communication? Standby lang. Just to prepare draft advisories that needs to be issued once called for the need. Transportation, o pwede ka na mag-preposition kasi bukas delikado na. So ang instruction sa transportation kami bukas ng after breakfast, magpe-preposition na kami. Baka bukas pag-umpisa ng ulan, sa hapon, pag bilang tumas ang tubig, mag-umpisa na tayo mag-evacuate. So hindi na kami mahirapan. Hindi yung kung kailan mag-uumpisang mag-transport ng population to evacuate, doon ka palang mag-full tank, doon ka palang magpe-proposition, doon ka palang hahanap ng driver. Sino yung driver number 2 mo at daytime and nighttime? Shifting. Lahat aaralin. Kung ano ang nakita nilang kailangan according to their capacity. Now, this tabletop exercise, kung anong sagot nila, hindi pwedeng sagot ng another barangay kasi depende kung anong capacity meron sila. May barangay na walang vehicle, may barangay na sobra-sobrang vehicle, may barangay na walang evacuation center, may barangay na sobra-sobrang evacuation centers. So evacuation ka. Okay, Mr. Chair, since we have enough evacuation centers, may sobra pa nga tayo and therefore, our order to evacuate is intra-barangay. Yung iba naman, okay, kulang tayo kap ng evacuation centers, paano ito? Hindi, sa katabing barangay natin may sobra. So itong population, intra-barangay approach, pero itong sobra natin, kausapin ko si Kap, if we are going to implement inter-barangay approach in evacuation, meaning transferring from one barangay to another. So yun ang pag-uusapan nyo sa tabletop exercise. At signal number 2, ano ang gagawin? Lahat yan, hanggang makarating tayo sa supposedly done by relief team. Including coordination for support from external organizations, kasama po yan dyan. There comes another bulletin issued by Pag-asa, bulletin number 9, 12 p.m., September 11, 2021, meaning midnight, 12 p.m. That according to Pag-asa, based on satellite and surface data, as of 11 p.m., September 11, 2021, the typhoon is now just in a distance of 200 kilometers southeast of Batangas City. Nasa loob ka na ng circulation. At nasa loob ka na ng malakas na hangin. Nag-uumpisa na yan. Bigla, bumilis yung takbo ng bagyo. Bigla tayo nag-200. Pero supposedly, with this kind of situation, as of 5 o'clock p.m. or 11 p.m., 11 a.m., mayroon kang analysis para hindi ka mabigla. Pero ang gagawin nating scenario, synoptic presentation, ganito. Yung may mga situations na alanganin. Kasi nakaligtaan pala nilang mag-compute. So ano ang gagawin mo? So bahala ka gumawa ng synopsis kung ano ang gusto mong mangyari. Mas binibigla sila na hindi nila alam at mabibigla, mas maganda para mag-isip. Anyway, we will just facilitate during the presentation and reporting. So 200 kilometers, diameter mo ay 600. Ibig sabihin, nasa loob ka na ng 200. 100 kilometers ka na sa loob ng edge ng typhoon. So umpisa na yan mag-uumpisa na dyan ang malakas na hangin. So with this, dapat sa bulletin number 7, kung 9 na ito, kasi may 5 o'clock and may 10 o'clock, may 11 o'clock a.m. Yung 11 o'clock, most probably, severe weather bulletin number 7, yung 5 o'clock, severe weather bulletin number 8, and then ito, severe weather bulletin number 9. Ang decision making mo dito, dapat severe weather bulletin number 7. So dito, anong gagawin mo? Nandiyan na yun. Dito na ka na mag-a-apply ng mandatory evacuation. So, ang gagawin mo dito, dapat sa severe weather bulletin number 7, ang gagawin mo doon ay preparado ka na mag-release ng order to evacuate. So, ano ang gagawin nila? Signal number 3 na. Meaning, in few hours, or meaning a couple of hours, they are already going to experience the wind of up to 70 or 80 kilometers per hour, starting from most probably 30 sa ganitong distance. So, to me, my evacuation plan would be done within 2 to 3 hours. Kaya pa yan. Kasi binigla tayo, katulad ng Glenda, in just 24 hours from signal number 0, nag-signal number 3 within 12 to 18 hours. Napakabilis ng takbo. 8 to 15 kilometers per hour. Mabilis din yan. So anong gagawin ng warning? Communication, transportation, security, lahat. Ilalatag nila yan. And then you are going to give them 10 minutes for this. Nakapag-evacuate na yung tao. Kasi signal number 3 na. Within 18 hours, dapat completed na ang contingency plan. Dapat executed na in 18 hours. As of 5 p.m., September 12, 2021, nag-stationary siya, still at 200 kilometers per hour. So hindi siya gumalaw. Pero ngayon, ang movement niya, bumalik siya sa 15 kilometers because of another low pressure area that affected its movement. Hindi siya gumalaw at 200 kilometers southeast of Batangas. Pero dineclare na siyang signal number 4 kasi nakikita ng Pag-asa na talagang tuloy-tuloy na ito at wala na yung obstruction. And to the point that in few hours, i-declare na siya ng signal number 5. Ano ang gagawin nila sa signal number 4 and signal number 5? You will only give them 3 minutes for this because ang expected action na gagawin nila dyan ay wala. At signal number 4 and number 5, dapat wala na silang gagawin but to wait. The critical stage that they need to perform their task will be at signal number 2 and 3. At signal number 4, wala nang galawan. Pag may nakita tayong gumalaw sa kanila at signal number 4 and number 5, walang nakinig sa atin. Bakit during the height of typhoon, magre-rescue ka para mapasama ka sa mamamatay? Meaning, you did not execute your plan because you did not evacuate people during that time when you provided them with time frame to protect themselves and proceed to their temporary shelter while there is no harm, while there was no threat yet. Failure yon kapag may gumalaw at signal number 4 and 5. That is a type 1 error. So, signal number 4, pag signal number 5, walang galawan. Wala dapat na gagawin. So, yan ang dapat ilagay natin sa drill para yun din ang sundin ng barangay. So, bibigyan natin sila dyan ng 3 minutes. 4, papasok pa rin natin sila sa signal number 5. Ngayon, lumabas na, nasa diameter na yung bagyo. Signal number 5. Nasa diameter na yung lugar. Right-seated at the eye of the typhoon where the situation is calm. Sasabihin, o bakit nagkaroon tayo ng thunderstorm may lightning? Meaning you are right at the eye wall of the typhoon. The place, the part of the typhoon where you are going to experience the strongest wind. Tapos biglang nawala after the lightning. Biglang kalmada, lumabas yung araw, sumikat yung araw, at walang kahangin-hangin, nagsilabasan yung tao. So dapat may instruction dyan sa advisory. Since we are going to be hit directly by the eye, and therefore, at 2 o'clock, hanggang halimbawa 2 o'clock na, yung estimated time natin ng landfall, dapat may advisory na ganitong oras, walang galawan because we will be experiencing the eye of the typhoon and prepare for the next episode of southwest monsoon wind or southwest wind coming from the other side of the wall because that is an indicator that the typhoon is starting to move far from us. Kabila na yon. So maghihintay ka pa rin. Dapat walang galawan during the time na nandyan ang eye ng typhoon. Hanggang bulletin ng bulletin, lumampas na yung bagyo, there came now the declaration that the area is placed under signal number 1. From bababa siya sa 4, 3, 2, 1. Bibigay mo pa rin, okay. According to Pag-asa, the typhoon has already passed far from Mindoro and then now moving towards West Philippine Sea, napapunta na siya sa Macau. It is now located at 30 kilometers northwest of Batangas City. northwest, hindi na southeast, northwest na, lumampas na siya of Batangas City. And bumaba yung kanyang lakas. It is now carrying a strength of 150 kilometers per hour sustained wind and up to 170 kilometers gustiness. All other areas with higher signal are downgraded, where Batangas in region 4A, 4B is now placed under tropical cyclone warning signal number 1. And this is now a typhoon category since it is now lowered from its strength is now reduced to the maximum of 170 kilometers per hour. And it's moving at 10 kilometers per hour northwest with a diameter of reduced from 600 down to 500 kilometers. Rainfall is now 27 to 35 millimeters per hour. So signal number 1 na. Ano ang gagawin ng mga barangay officials? Warning, communication, evacuation, transportation, security, and so on. Ano ang gagawin nyo? I'm giving you 15 minutes to do it. So this time, magpaplano na sila to decamp, identifying those population evacuated, which one to start decampment, and then which one will be started to be, will be advised to stay. And then you are now going to call for a small group meeting for you to organize damage assessment team. So hanggang doon lang tayo. And then after that, we will call them to consolidate the report. We will give them maybe 15 to 30 minutes to consolidate the report. And then after that, we will call for plenary in order for each area, Balayan, IMOS, or sino pang nag-participate yan to present their actions taken. So that will be our debriefing session. So in our presentation, we will let them first present what they did, what were the problems encountered or anticipated problem based from their discussion, what were the difficulties encountered during the tabletop exercise, and what are their recommendations. So based from that, we as facilitator and resource persons, we will critique their output and come up with an appropriate recommendations so that they will be able to improve their outputs. So after that, improving the output, they are going to prepare another plan, the drill plan, so that based from the recommendations coming from the result of the tabletop exercise, they are going to finalize their drill plan and then improve their contingency plan so that this time they are ready to conduct simulation exercise. Now, for the simulation exercise, they are going to involve community, including appropriations for the relief distribution, because once we do actual drill, we are going to distribute relief as a sort of motivation and incentive to those who participated in the drill. Dapat may budget. So, ganon ang paggawa ng tabletop exercise. So, with the map, ano yung requirements sa tabletop exercise? Number 1, map. Number 2, data. Number 3, all those matrix done in the contingency plan. And therefore, in short, we need their contingency plan as reference. And then we need those actors coming from the members of the local disaster risk reduction and management committee from the barangay. We need representatives from the people's organization being mandated under Republic Act 10121 in organizing the local disaster risk reduction and management council and committee. There must be representative from the private and social and people's organization. And then we need to invite those other observers from other barangays who are not directly involved in the process of training, but they can be invited as observers. And also, we will invite documenters to do the documentation during the process of the tabletop exercise and then the drill. And then we will also invite those experts to assist us critique the output in order for them to provide expert idea how they are going to share their information, how to improve the output and the documents. And then we need transportation facilities. We need ambulance facility during the drill so that if something happens, we have a standby medical team. And then another thing in planning for this, sa actual drill, because tabletop exercise is only done within the four corners of the room, while the actual drill is being done outside with the community. And therefore, we need to identify the community to participate, the location, and then we need to put in the map the target evacuation facilities, and then we will determine the areas that will be our place, the place for observers, meaning different stations. And then we will identify the risk zones and then the safer locations so that we will see to it that the movement during evacuation is freely done in a safer roads and access bridges. Yung safer na yon, identified yan. And therefore, with this, we will conclude if they are prepared or not. Otherwise, they are going to repeat it from time to time in order to practice all those procedures and procedures and systems that are part in the contingency plan. Dito magtatapos ang preparedness program. Sa drills and exercises, after they were able to produce this contingency plan and then finalized and presented as approved by the Sangguniang Barangay for adoption. Diyan po magtatapos ang preparedness program. Any question? At first, during the forecast status, we can only ask Pag-asa to give us the data about the rainfall, the estimated rainfall. That is part of the forecast based from the radar data. But on ground data, groundwater monitoring, we must have our own rain gauge for the detection level so that we will be able to determine whether we are already in the threshold or not. But the one that is being said by Pag-asa in the forecast is not our basis for decision making. We must have our own rain gauge. Otherwise, magkakamali tayo sa pag-detect ng threshold for us to determine whether we are going to evacuate or not. But talking about flooding, let us not talk about rainfall. What we will do without the rain gauge is, another option is the observation of river condition using flood markers. Doon tayo papasok. Pero yung sinasabing like Yolanda, from 900 to 600 kilometers in diameter, bigyan ko kayo ng example. Kumuha kayo ng palanggana, lagyan nyo ng tubig. Paikutin nyo yung tubig counterclockwise kasi we are in the North Pole. Alalay lang ang pagpaikot. Bilisan nyo. Pag binilisan nyo, kikreate siya ng dimple. Ibig sabihin, from 900 kilometers reduced to 600 kilometers, ibig sabihin, kung ganito ang form niya, oval, pag nireduce mo, what happened to the water inside the circulation? Kung pinres mo siya ng pagganon, ang tendency ng oval, lolobo siya ng pataas and pababa. So pag lumobo siya ng ganon, ang interpretation ko dyan is it will increase the thickness of cloudiness. And therefore, mas matindi ang ulan yan, mas mabigat. And therefore, kung ang estimated rainfall data ng Pag-asa is 27 to 35 millimeters per hour, baka pag kumapal yon, at kasi kumapal siya, kasi ang estimate ko dyan, from 270, pumalo siya sa 320, ibig sabihin, kaya siya lumiit at saka lumobo siya sa gitna dahil bumilis ang ikot niya. Kasi kung sa palanggana, pag binilisan mang ikot niya, lalalim ang dimple. And therefore, lolobo siya ng paakyat at liliit siya sa side. Yun ang tendency niyan. Bibilis ang hangin, pero magiging thicker ang rainfall probability. Yun ang implication pag lumiit ang diameter. So anong gagawin mo? Anticipate mo ang bigger precipitation, thicker cloudiness, and stronger wind. Yan ang conclusion ko dyan kapag lumiit ang diameter niya. So again, pag lumiit ang diameter, ang conclusion, kakapal ang clouds, lalakas bibilis ang takbo ng hangin, and then tataas ang probability of flood and rainfall, and even landslide. Instead na 12 hours ang probability of flood, baka 3 hours lang, babahain ka na because increased ang precipitation. Pwede, in a form of evaluation, we will evaluate them, our participants, how far have they gone in training, what kind of trainings, and then when was the training done, and who conducted the training, so that we will assess the credibility of provider. So we can determine if they are capable. Otherwise, we need to patch up other needs so that we will be able to help them increase their capacity. We will do pre-training evaluation maybe.
The Resiliency Improvement Support and Education for the Seafarer Communities in the Philippines project, also known as Project RISE, aims to develop and implement disaster preparedness programs for seafarer communities, which will serve as model communities that can be replicated nationally. Project RISE provides unique training opportunities for global maritime professionals and local disaster risk reduction and management personnel to improve their community's capacity for disaster preparedness. Thank you for watching this module. Click on the next video in this series to continue learning more.